You know, I always heard that the secret to success is surround yourself with people smarter than yourself, and I think you can see how passionate, intelligent these people are, and we're very lucky to have them on our team and on our staff, and I'm personally lucky to work with them every single day. So, just another round of applause for them. They do so much for us here. As Mariah mentioned, my name is Robert Maxheimer. I'm the Director of Curatorial Affairs and Education here at the National Corvette Museum. As you may have heard, we have begun construction on a brand new collections facility just down the street here. The new building is dedicated to the long-term care and preservation of our objects and vehicles, and we have a responsibility, as you've heard, to care for these pieces of history so they may educate audiences for generations to come. It is this very building that was the genesis for our newest exhibition, Driven to Preserve. Now, this exhibition focuses on the techniques and the skills behind the highest standards of collections care and the amazing team that made it all happen. The challenge comes when we translate this highly specific skill set to an exhibition for everybody to understand. How do you present something that is highly technical? It might be language, it might be a procedure, so that everyone can understand it. Well, luckily, we have an amazing curator and curatorial associate to do just that. First, to talk a little bit about the early development of the exhibit is Brian Gable, our curator, followed by Caitlin Valentine, who has served as our exhibition designer and coordinator on this project. Brian, you want to come on up? There you are.
Hey, good morning, everyone. As Robert said, my name is Brian Gable. I'm the exhibitions curator here at the National Corvette Museum, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about how we developed this new exhibit, Driven to Preserve. So this exhibit is all about what goes on behind the scenes at museums, what we're doing with all the artifacts in our collection when they're not on display. Most of the time, I think people think, well, those artifacts, things that aren't on display, they're just like sitting off in storage somewhere. But the truth is that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that people don't typically get to see. And that's what we wanted to share with this exhibit. We wanted to create this behind-the-scenes style exhibit just because it's not something that a lot of people are familiar with. And because it'll give you guys an idea of what's going on in this new collections building that you heard Robert talk about. That's going to be, once it's complete, the new home for all of our 3D collections and artifacts. Now, most exhibits have kind of like a big idea or a main idea, similar to like a thesis statement for a paper that you would write in school, something that you're trying to argue or prove or demonstrate. Well, the big idea for Driven to Preserve is that the staff here at the National Corvette Museum, the folks that I work with, things that I do, people on the exhibits and collections team, we have these detailed, dedicated processes for caring for collections objects that you don't see on display. And the reason that we have a lot of these processes is because we're charged with the stewardship of the collections, the cars, the archives, the artifacts, everything that's been donated to the museum that's now in our care. And we wanted to share the types of work that our team does to preserve those collections objects. And we want folks to see and learn about and understand the processes that we do each and every day to keep those objects safe. Now, good stewardship of the collections is important because it's our duty to preserve everything that's in our care for future generations. We preserve these collections so that we can do things like exhibits where we can share the history of all the different objects in our collections. So we can put things on display, allow us to share their stories with visitors. Because if we weren't practicing good stewardship, then those objects would get lost or damaged, and we wouldn't be able to do those things. So, to give you guys a little bit better idea of how this works, we also have some goals for the exhibit, some kind of general guidelines that support the main idea, things that we want everybody to learn or take away from the experience. Those include curating a selection of artifacts from the museum's collection, not just things that you guys wouldn't typically see as visitors, but also things that represent the broad range of items in our collection. There's also a very practical need for this exhibit where if we're able to display several cars, things in the limited engagement gallery, it's less objects that we have to move and plan for as we prepare to move everything over to the new building this summer. And like I was talking about before, just educating everyone who walks through the doors about the kinds of things that we do, so we can keep our collection safe and keep creating great exhibits for you guys. So to accomplish all this, you guys will see in the limited engagement gallery a selection of 12 Corvettes. There's one bare Corvette chassis as well. And a lot of the cars that you'll see here, some of them are very new to the collection. Some of them have been part of the collection for much longer, maybe a decade or more, although a lot of them probably haven't been on display recently. And part of the reason that we chose some of the cars that you'll see here is that we wanted to make sure that we had a better representation of 4th generation, 5th generation, and 6th generation Corvettes in the museum. Since before this, we didn't have a ton of those Corvettes on display leading up to this. But I don't know, it's hard to believe for me sometimes that Corvettes from the 90s and the 2000s and into the 2010s are now a decade or more than a decade older, or a couple decades older, are becoming historic vehicles. But that's definitely one of the things that we wanted to capture. But what you may not have thought about are some of the other types of artifacts that we have in our collection besides automobiles, which you guys will see a small sampling of here. The paper map that Madison talked about earlier is right in the center there. The bumper car that I mentioned before is down toward the lower left-hand corner for you guys. We also have a lot of die-cast cars on display, racing suits and jackets, model cars. We call them miniature or kiddie Corvettes, whether they're pedal cars or a battery-powered car. Also have framed artwork, a pinball machine, objects that are related to the history of the museum, and even things like pins and belt buckles right at the bottom of the center there. It's you never would have thought that you'd see like such artistry on a belt buckle, right? But that's what that is. And you'll see all of this and more in the new exhibit. And but yeah, that was honestly a big challenge with how we did this. Just trying to get all the collection's objects on display in a way that people would be able to enjoy them, but not make it just look like a hodgepodge of stuff, right? So to talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin Valentine, who did an excellent job basically designing the layout and the planning of how this exhibit is presented, and she's going to tell you more about that right now.
Hello again. So like Brian said, we have about 80 objects on display, not including the 12 vehicles that are on display. So it's a pretty heavy lift. In recent history, I don't think we've had an exhibit with that many objects on display at a time, especially not with this much variety. So with that comes its own separate list of challenges, because there are all sorts of different sizes and shapes, and some of them have different display requirements and things that you need to think of when displaying different types of objects. So I would say the two main challenges that came about with this exhibit were the quantity of objects. Again, that's a lot to try to squeeze into one room, and the additional challenge of doing this exhibition while in the face of the upcoming move. So trying to put these things on display to not only help clear up some of the space so that our team can do what they do best and try to facilitate that move, but also to make sure that we are not putting an excess load of things, like the boxes and things that they would have to then store to hold on to for the run of this exhibition. So the best way we could do that was we kind of split this exhibition up into 4 sections, I would say. So the first of which starts, I would say probably to the bottom of the screen here. I've been calling it the preservation section, that's what we've all been calling it. And that's gonna be 2 cars and a chassis, which we have the unrestored 58 and the chassis for it, and then the 1962 Tuxedo Black. So that kind of builds out the story of what Dan and his team do, the hard work they do every day, trying to make sure that the vehicle collection is in tip-top shape and ready for the display floor, and to see that floor as long as possible. And here is I mentioned SketchUp earlier. All of these images were done in SketchUp over the course of the last several months. The real exhibition might look a little bit different just because game day decisions, things might change. But generally, when you walk into the exhibition, you have your preservation on the right, and across from that is 5 car lifts, each with 2 cars on display. So towards the back of it, we get into a complete other section of the exhibition that we've been calling the 3D collections portion. It's not all 3D collections, we have some archival stuff in there as well, but generally, this corner is more of your smaller objects, your die casts. We have 12 belt buckles on display in one case, which I think is one of my favorite parts of the exhibition. That was a lot of fun to kind of plan out. And then we have the last corner, which actually is broken up into 2 images, which is a lot more of your larger objects. So we have Ed Cole's desk and the desk chair. We have a pinball machine. We have the bumper car that Brian had talked about earlier. So it's a lot more of a varied selection of objects than in the other side. There's that other corner with a couple of junior cars and pedal cars as well. So part of what makes this difficult is, and one of my favorite parts of exhibition design, is it's kind of like a big puzzle. When it gets to me, we have an object list. How do we put them on the floor? And to use that, I mentioned I use SketchUp. I live and breathe SketchUp at this point. I could do it in my sleep. And it's a really great tool to plan out these exhibitions ahead of time so that when we're not walking into the exhibition going, okay, let's install it, where's it going? Because we have different, especially with as many objects as this, sometimes you need to pre-plan it to make things make sense. So here's an example of what a lot of my job was for this exhibition. So what I will do is our team, when they catalog objects, they have the dimensions in Past Perfect that I can go reference. Thank you for that. It makes my job much easier. And I can build them out in SketchUp in a very basic 3D block form. And I can plan out the case and decide how things are going to be displayed, but then I need to test it because making it work on a computer is very different than practically making it work in person. So for this exhibition, there was a lot of kind of back and forth of looking at SketchUp, working on it in SketchUp, taking that idea and then going into the lab and saying, okay, will this actually functionally work? And then going back and editing it as I needed to. And I think the biggest parts of the exhibition that benefited from that were the belt buckle display, because again, 12 belt buckles in one case is a lot, especially to make sure that they all kind of were separated out in a way that made sense. But where that really came in handy was with the die-cast shelves. So I have an image here. This was the digital version of what those die-cast shelves looked like. There's a lot. And so there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of iterations, a lot of testing to make sure that not only did they make sense together, did the objects per shelf make sense together, but also were they supported, were they stable? Did the boxes that we were using as risers, were they steady enough to hold those without risk of them toppling over or sliding or whatever other risk could arise. So this one as well was one that I tested out in person. So I broke it down into shelf by shelf, and I was able to go through and plan it out and say, okay, this is what this shelf is gonna look like. Here's a tape measure, here's the length, here's the width. does this even work, you know? And I think it worked out really well. We had a couple of, you know, as with anything, there's always going to be some last minute changes that need to happen just because things change, and that's fine. But it was a really good starting point to decide, okay, here's the general idea, we can adjust from there, because smaller adjustments are much easier than large ones. And then the next challenge, which again really showed its head with the sheer number of objects involved in this install, was I know where these things are going. How do I make sure that the rest of the team knows where these things are going? Because with that many things, I can't be everywhere at once. And so to solve that problem, I developed a document that I've been calling an installation guide that breaks down each shelf, each case, every item in the exhibition. Where is it going? Does it have a special riser? If it's going on a box, is it going on its box or is it a different one? And kind of laid out any and all of the considerations that you could need to make sure that this install was something that we all understood before we even hit the ground. And I think it worked out really well. It was a great reference guide the whole way through to say, okay, we have 34 things to install on these shelves. Can we break them up into smaller shelves at a time and then bring up one box of the top left shelf and then keep the other ones in the back so that we're not having to juggle 34 objects at a time, and instead it's 9 or 10. And I think it went really well. And here are some photos from the install. I don't know if either of you have any more to say about that, but we've been installing this over the course of the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. And we're really happy for you guys to see it.
All right, I was going to leave time for questions, but I'm going to challenge you to find them in the space. Everyone here that you saw on stage is going to be in the exhibit. Find them, ask questions, engage with them. We're going to have some hands-on activities so you can actually see some of these materials and the effects of UV light on objects, where Sharon will be back there explaining that. So what we're going to do is make your way through the actual museum and kind of snake your way through. There'll be staff members directing you, and then you'll be able to go through the front of the exhibition and take your time, enjoy. Like I said, talk to our staff members, and they'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. So thank you again for coming. This is so exciting to see everybody here and open this exhibition finally after almost a year of development. So enjoy. Thank you.